Did you know Jesus gave a formula for forgiving others? How many times do you have to forgive someone? Jesus said, forgive a lot. Good morning and welcome to 755 Live. For about 5 minutes, you'll hear all about easy to remember soundbite versions of what Jesus said. And the point is to help you experience life to the fullest, the Jesus way. Today's Jesus Said comes from Matthew 18, 21 through 22. We're not going to read that whole chapter today, but I would recommend that you read the first part of this as well. But we will start in verse 21. Then Peter came to him and said, Lord, how many times must I forgive my brother who sins against me? As many as 7 times? And Jesus said to him, not 7 times, but I tell you, 77 times. That can also be translated 70 times 7. The point here is it was a lot. Jesus said, yes, Peter, you must forgive a lot. Now, the context here of Matthew 18, Jesus had just given what I'm calling the forgiveness formula. He said, when you have a conflict with someone, when someone does something wrong, there is a 3-step process that you're supposed to go through. Now, this is a relationship within the church among believers. He said, first, you go to the person. Now, just because this is for the church, this also works, this formula works, even outside the church. And it's the way that we are told to deal with conflict and to deal with wrong against us. First, you go to the person, not to others. First, to the person. And if that doesn't work, if there's no reconciliation, then you take somebody with you. And if that doesn't work, the third step is that you bring it before the church, a group, the ecclesia, the governing body. Now, we don't have time to go into the details of what that looks like within the church structure, but this is a formula. This is a recipe for how to deal with conflict. And if you're baking a cake, if you don't follow the recipe, you're not going to get the right kind of cake. And most conflict among people, and especially among believers, is never really resolved. Why? Because we don't follow the formula. We don't bake the cake like Jesus told us to. And it's too easy in our culture just to disconnect whenever our feelings are hurt or we feel like that we've been done wrong. Peter was questioning this process too. He's like, okay, so Jesus said that we have to forgive this way, step 1, step 2, step 3. And then he says, how many times should we have to put up with this? And Jesus said, forgive a lot, 77 times or even 70 times 7. This was an idiom that literally meant an unlimited number of times. And Peter was saying, well, when can I give up? When is it okay to be angry? When is it okay to hang on to this? And Jesus said, forgive a lot. Now, many times we want to justify our anger and call it righteous indignation. But we're told very clearly in James 1:20 that human anger does not accomplish God's righteousness. That's pretty specific, and it doesn't really have a righteous indignation exception clause. Paul in Romans 12 goes into even more detail about what God's righteousness looks like as we respond to evil or to conflict. And he says in Romans 12:17, do not repay anyone evil for evil. Consider what is good before all people. If possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all people. Do not avenge yourselves, dear friends, but give place to God's wrath. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. Rather, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him a drink. For in doing this, you will be heaping burning coals on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Forgiveness isn't giving up or letting someone off the hook when they do you wrong. Forgiveness is where we find our peace and our joy if we let God do his job. Because God is much better at dealing with conflict and dealing with our enemies and dealing with wrong than we are. Our job is to follow the forgiveness formula that Jesus gave. Go to whoever you have a conflict with. If that doesn't work, take somebody with you. If that doesn't work, bring it before a group. That's the formula that Jesus gave us, and he told us to do that a lot. Why? Because that's where the peace is. If we can let it go, we can let God handle it, and he's much better than we are at taking care of conflict. Jesus said, forgive a lot. Who do you need to forgive? How can you put that into action today? Thank you so much for listening. If this time is meaningful to you, it really helps and means a lot to me if you like it, if you share it, if you comment. I really, really appreciate you. I hope that you have an amazing day, and I hope this time together has helped you live life to the fullest the Jesus way. And remember, follow Jesus today. Love first.